Be Frank Network.
Welcome to a very special Happy Never After podcast. I am joined by a man that we had on Muscle Spasms. His story was extremely inspiring. His life's inspiring. He's badass. He is a leader at the program. He's a retired staff sergeant of the U.S. Army. He served with the Fighting 69. He's decorated with the Badge of Valor and a Purple Heart. He's an elite level endurance athlete, two-time member of the USA Para-National Triathlon team because he lost his hand. And we will get into that story. Let's give it up, everyone, for Sam Cila. Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy holidays.
You too. Did you have a good Christmas?
I did. I met the in-laws for the first time.
Oh, nice. Nice. That's always an experience.
Yeah. They're high energy.
Okay.
They're very loving, very nice. Yeah. But a wrestling family. You started as a wrestler, right?
I did. Yep. Yes.
Do you think that translates into life wrestling?
Absolutely.
I was really hoping that you were going to say no, so I would stop hearing the story.
Absolutely. I think it's an individual sport played at a team level, but the lessons learned, I think, are different than most sports, and I think they carry over through life. Always privileged that I was a wrestler first.
Every day, Dave and I, we have this competition he doesn't know he's in, where I'm like, let's just make through one day without a wrestling analogy, and we'd never make it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the reason I was so inspired to have this is because, yes, 2020, this is the first episode. We are recording in 2020, but this will be the first episode in 2021. 2020 was hard. Great. We said it. It's happened. We got through it. But there's no point, I don't think, this is my own personal, you don't have to agree, you can disagree, but it is what it is. Take whatever we have and let's move forward in whatever direction. And I'm tired of hearing, it's so hard here. And like, I was watching The Housewives, don't ask me why. And there was a woman on there who was hysterically hiccup crying because she couldn't complete her divorce during COVID because it was extending out. And I was like, there are people dying. Who cares? I mean, you still just bought yourself a Ferrari. What are you talking about? There's people starving. What is that? So I was like, enough. I've heard enough.
Yes, I agree.
So I wanted to talk about victim mentality, how to get out of it, and how to live life through adversity and how to still be successful.
Yeah. Well, one, I agree with you 100%, except for some of the words that we choose are a little different. You'll never hear me or any of my teammates at the program talk about how hard things are. We use the word challenging. I'm 47 years old, even though I hate to admit that. But in my 47 years, I've only done 3 hard things. I kissed my wife and kids goodbye before I deployed to a combat zone. That was hard to do. I watched a teammate and friend die in battle. That was hard to do. And I told the doctor.
Just watch him die. Didn't you hold him in your arms?
Yeah. I mean, had a teammate die in battle, with me, and then told the doctor to cut off my left hand. Those are the 3 hardest things I've ever done. COVID-19 2020 is not hard. It's challenging. And your mindset, we took this as an opportunity, not as a victim festival.
Right.
So our mindset was, hey, let's make this an opportunity to get better, to find ways to grow our company, to come closer together as a team with connectivity, and really build relationships with our current clients. So, yeah, I mean, it was challenging, lots of unknowns, lots of variables, but definitely wasn't hard. Challenging is the word that we use.
Now,
that's the first step in a warrior mindset versus victim mindset is vernacular.
Because, yeah, that's true. Because you can lie to yourself 7 times and believe it or something like that.
Yep.
So if you keep saying a victim or if you keep saying hard, you'll just think that that's what it is. Do you work with people that are in victim mentality and that prefer to? I have a lot of friends that love to live in that victim zone. That it just brings them attention and that's how they know life. So, but it's not productive.
No, it's not. And for most people, it's easy.
Yes.
It's easier to place blame, shift responsibility, shift ownership to someone else, blame something else. I personally know a lot of people in the same way that you do, in that victim mentality. And then we also work with, we work with a lot of college athletes, pro athletes, corporations in America that, yeah, I mean, there's people that take on that victim mentality because it is easy.
Now, you've been home for a while, and before you used to travel a lot. Does your wife want to kill you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
She's like, get out.
Everyone, the cats are like, all right, dude, you got to go. I've messed up the entire, the entire battle rhythm of the house here. So
Can we go through your history just a little bit?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you were born and then you had parents. Were your parents in the military?
My dad, my grandparents, my dad's father was in the Army Air Force. My dad was in the Marines for a short time, did a very short stint in the Marine Corps. But no, I didn't really come up from, other than my grandfather on my dad's side, who's in World War II. That was really the only sort of experience or stories that I heard about the military was through my grandfather. And I always admired him for it, and the stories and what he did. But no, the military was never on my radar kind of growing up.
How did you jump into that?
So in 2001, September 11, 2001, I was working as a correction officer in Suffolk County, New York,
Okay.
and was there about 7 years. And that week in particular, the 11th of September, I was scheduled to start my vacation. And I had gotten up that morning, had my breakfast, went to the gym. I was scheduled for a late afternoon flight out of JFK to Las Vegas to go out to Bike Week, race motorcycles around the desert. And when I was at the gym, I noticed some like breaking news on the televisions, but I didn't really pick my head up and look at it. Quite frankly, and as embarrassing as to say, I just didn't really care because like it was my vacation. I didn't really care what was happening. It wasn't going to involve me.
Yeah.
So I never really picked my head up and took notice of it. About 2 hours later, I got back to my apartment, and this is, obviously a long time ago because my answering machine was blinking. I don't know who has an answering machine anymore, but
you're dating yourself.
yeah, people are like, what's an answering machine? The first message was the jail calling me back for emergency services, and my vacation was canceled. And I was mad. I was angry. Like, now this is affecting me. And I still didn't care what it was. I was just like, it was affecting me now. Like my flights, my hotels, my reservations. Like, I have to go back to work. And when I got back to work that day, reluctantly, I walked in. I was, with a bad attitude, but no one really kind of told me what was going on still because they just assumed that I know.
Mm-hmm.
And even the inmates, when I walked into the prison, were watching the televisions, and I still had no clue what was happening. I was just pissed off.
You have some intense focus.
Yeah, like I was just angry. A woman that I had worked with for the better part of 7 years at this point, she was working next to me, and she didn't really say much to me, just hello, and I just said hello back, and kind of went about my business. But shortly thereafter, I noticed the gates opening, the corridor lights coming on, and the warden, the sheriff, and the chief of staff, three guys that you never see all together in the prison. They were coming our way, and they stopped at Barbara's tier, and they said, Barbara, we think it's best you go home, because unbeknownst to me, her husband and her son were killed in the first.
Oh my God.
In the first attack on the towers. Her husband was an attorney. Her son was a junior attorney at the same office. And Barbara's answer was, well, I have no one to go home to. She just turned around and went back to work. There's very few times in your life where you really get to evaluate the person that you are, the person that you're being. And for me, it was that moment, because like I was mad that my vacation was canceled and I had to like reschedule flights and I had to go back to work, and like the inconvenience to me. Meanwhile, someone just lost the two most important people in her life.
Her whole life.
So now I'm glued to the television and I'm watching what's happening in New York City and Pennsylvania at the Pentagon. And I'm watching brave men and women running towards the fire, running towards the destruction, showing duty, honor, country, sacrifice, bravery, words that I knew what they meant, but I don't think I ever exhibited them.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I decided it was clear what I was going to do. I finished my shift, and I'm sure you've been on the Long Island Expressway heading back from the east end of Long Island. Right when you get around Brookhaven, there's a sign that says New York City, 55 miles.
Right.
And I passed that sign, and I thought the enemy flew our planes into our city, killing our people 55 miles from where I live. And at that moment, I decided I was going to join the U.S. military. I went home and called my parents and told them what I was going to do. And, it's funny, we talk about victim warrior mindset. Well, the first thing that happened after I dropped that statement was a list of excuses of why I shouldn't. You have a young son, you just got divorced. What about your career? What if you get hurt? What if you get killed? Every reason not to do it. Had I had listened to any one of those reasons, which were, some of them were perfectly valid, I wouldn't be where I am today or have accomplished some of the things that I have accomplished. And then most importantly, have the teammates I have, that I'm privileged to work with and to serve with, every single day. So
do you keep up with your ex-coworker?
No, I saw her shortly after. She had moved, she retired. No, I didn't. And even that day, one of my biggest regrets is I didn't know what to say to her. I didn't say anything. But I think about that statement all the time, and it still gives me chills because it really puts in perspective, how easy it is to just be self-consumed about number one and never really look around to see number two and number three about how things are affecting them.
Yeah, you obviously weren't listening, and I don't want to make excuses. There are no excuses, but you were unaware. But I can't even imagine. My sister's best friend, they were all in a car together and hit a patch of ice, and everyone in the car passed away, and just the father survived. And he didn't make it much longer on his own. So yeah. I was like, I understand. I wouldn't.
That right there is a hard situation to deal with. 100%.
Yeah.
The dealing of losing loved ones, of a horrible accident, that 100% is hard, and rightfully so. Anytime you lose a loved one or there's a horrible accident, those situations are hard, and they do take some time to to overcome.
So you were divorced prior,
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Before you're just barely hanging on to this one.
Yeah. So as soon as you said that, I started to sweat. I still have nightmares over it. I was divorced. My son at the time was 2.5 when I enlisted.
Mm-hmm.
My current wife, her and I were together. We weren't married yet. But when I finally deployed in 2003, my older son was just about to turn 5, and my little guy was 12 months old. I didn't see them for the next 24 months.
24 months.
I was away at training, and then 2 deployments. Two deployments in 2003 and 2004. So
you were a sniper?
Yeah, I was assigned to a sniper unit. I was with an infantry unit attached to the 1st Cav and then 5th Group Special Operations. So I got to do some really cool stuff in the military.
Yeah, my dad was an EOD.
Okay, that's awesome.
And those guys
had some onions on them.
I got to hear of his accidental blow-ups.
Yeah, getting blown up is not fun, I'm sure. His was accidental. Mine was caused by someone else. But yeah, getting blown up is not fun.
Yeah, no, not fun at all. Okay, so you meet your wife. How did you meet your wife?
So I also, as a correction officer, I was a bouncer at a nightclub in the Hamptons. She was a bartender. Yeah, match made in heaven. How we actually met is I hit over the head with a bottle, and I lost my eyesight for about 10 minutes. And I jumped over the bar and sat in the corner. And she was looking at me like, "You're an idiot. You all right?" And I was like, "Can I just get a rag or something?" And that's kind of how we met. We've been together for 20 plus years now. So yeah, it's challenging. Being married is definitely challenging, but she's been through a lot of my journey. She's a big part of why I'm still here. So
yeah, you need a good woman.
Yes, and I definitely have it.
That's good. I dated a guy from Long Island once, and I went on, this is how I imagine your date went, just by your stature. But we were riding in a car, and he goes, "You're my woman now." And I was like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So that was nice. How did you propose?
So not really very romantic. I was getting ready to deploy, and we were home. My son was just born, and I was like, "Hey, look, I'm getting ready to go to Iraq, and it's really bad. If something happens and we're not married, I don't know the benefits, but if we're married, the benefits are much better." So I was like, "You want to go to town hall and get married?" And she was like, "Yeah, okay." So we put on.
What a good woman she is.
Yeah, so I put on jeans and a t-shirt, and she got dressed, and we took the kid in a carry-on and went to town hall and got married.
Oh yeah, my God.
Not very romantic, but I got the job done.
Did you take her on a honeymoon when you got back?
No, because when I got back, I was in 2 pieces. So our honeymoon was Walter Reed Medical Center for the better part of a year.
I'm going to come there and take her on a vacation. I'm going to be like, you need this.
Yeah.
So you go to Iraq and then you lose your hand.
July 4th, 2005, we were caught in an ambush. An IED, an improvised explosive device, was detonated. Myself and my company commander were about 100 yards away from it, dismounted from our vehicles. And in the explosion, shrapnel flew from my right side, ricocheted off my chest plate, and then sheared off most of my bicep and my tricep. In doing so, it cut my brachial artery and then severed my ulnar nerve and my radial nerve. And then fast forward, 6-7 months, my hand just stopped working because of the nerve damage that was done to
They
it.
sewed it back on, and so you just didn't
my hand actually didn't have a scratch on it, like literally nothing. It was just my upper arm. So, I mean, you kind of see it in the, I'm kind of chewed up, in the bicep and the tricep, but my hand actually didn't have a scratch on it. It just stopped working.
What do you do to get ready for the beach then? Because isn't that like a...
Yeah, so I got a really big right arm, not so much on the left arm. So I just kind of walk always to the right.
Okay, so you came back and then you went through, we talked about this on muscle spasms. I'm sorry for the repeat, but you went through several surgeries.
Yeah, I've gone through about 40, just under 50 surgeries. And then ultimately in 2008, I elected to have my left hand amputated. I was just having so many complications with it. It was it became a quality of life issue. And we had done so many surgeries and they were all unsuccessful. And as the story goes, I was out with some military buddies and we were at a hibachi, place. And I was sitting, they were to my right, and I was, we were talking, and obviously being Italian, you talk with your hands a little bit. And I didn't realize my left hand had no feeling in it, but it was leaning on the edge of the grill where the guy is cooking. And it was probably there for 3 or 4 minutes, but the cook was like, he's like, sir, your hand, it was like on fire. And I just stopped and I didn't feel it. So I just grabbed my napkin and stuck it in my glass of water and then just wrapped it up. And I just kept talking. But the burn was so bad. It just never really healed. It was just like the skin was falling off. They wanted to do a skin graft to it. And that's when I decided just take it off.
Take it off. You're like, hey, we have shrimp, chicken, beef, and Sam's hand.
And hand, yeah. So it was definitely well done. So hibachi dinner is really the main reason I decided to amputate it.
So during your mental state, during this whole situation?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that, I was good. But the truth is I was in a pretty bad place, from returning in 2005, probably to 2009. I suffered with severe depression, anxiety, just trying to figure out, how do I do this now with one hand, thinking that it was just the end of the world, and really just a victim's mentality. How do you have a catch with your son? How do you touch your wife? What are people going to think? How do you work out? How, you're not going to be a soldier anymore. Just all these uncertainties. And then the people that, that love me the most, they were just allowing it to happen because they care about you. So it was okay to take medication. It was okay to sleep 12, 13 hours a day. It's what you need. Mm-hmm. So, you start buying into that. And then suddenly, the next thing you know, you have an addiction to pain medication and, severe depression. And, you really start to see what you're failing at. And basically I was failing at everything.
Yeah. Sleeping 12 or 13 hours at the beginning is good for healing. But then after a while, you're like, oh no, he's going through something.
Oh, so I hated the way the medicine would make me feel. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't take it. But then my pain would increase to such levels that I had to take it. But then it was at such a level to get the pain back manageable, I would have to take 4 and 5 times the regular amount. Well, that just puts you in a coma. Well, you do that for 3 or 4 months and really quickly you have a problem. And that's what happened. And then somehow some doctor decided, well, maybe the medicine is too strong, so we'll put you on methadone.
Get off heroin meds?
Yeah, they put me on methadone, and that's really when things
Why don't they just throw you in an ayahuasca tent?
Yeah, so they might as well have. So yeah, they put me on methadone, and that's really when things went south for me. The medicine is just so overwhelming. And, prior to this, if someone told me they had an addiction problem, I'd laugh at them. I'd be like, hey, you're just weak, just quit. Like, oh, you smoke cigarettes, just quit. Having gone through it and then having to get detoxed, I have a whole new perspective of the power of prescription medication and opioids and how damaging it is to not only your physical state, but your physical state as well.
Well, crystal meth, wasn't that created for Vietnam soldiers to stay awake?
Yeah, I mean that's the rumor. I've heard, but I'd have to actually research that to see if it's 100%. I mean, it is on the internet, so it has to be true.
It's so true.
Yeah, so it's on the internet, it has to be true.
Yeah, there was this one guy that I used to work with, and he was addicted to food, and I never understood that because I was like, just stop eating,
Yeah,
like just put the fork down. I
yeah,
don't get it. And there was one point where he was in his car and he had nothing to eat, and he took Chick-fil-A condiment packages and just sucked them down.
yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh, I think this is beyond just putting the fork down. This is like a thing. Like he
A
made,
100%.
yeah.
It's so like there's just addictive properties to foods and drugs, and that they're just so powerful.
So what was the point? Did you have like dreams when you were little of what you wanted to be when you grew up and you were like, I gotta snap out of this? Like when did you stop being a pussy? No, I'm just kidding.
No, so I remember I had some chores to do, and one of them was to put an electric fence around the perimeter of our property for our dog.
Hmm.
And I remember like getting nagged about doing it and being like, all right, I'll go get this thing done. And I remember starting it, like just getting the shit together and being like, oh my God, this is so overwhelming. Like, and it's probably a project that right now would take me and an hour and a half to do, like bury your wire.
Bury the wire.
But it was so overwhelming. And I remember sweating and like just being so miserable, like just because I was physically moving.
Mm-hmm.
And I specifically remember this. I remember like quitting and going upstairs to my bathroom and taking off my shirt and looking at myself. And I was like, what in the, like, I remember just being so disgusted about the condition that I was in. I was probably, I mean, I'm 250 pounds right now, but I was probably 260, but a different 260 pounds, just different 260.
Like a Mr. Potato Head 260.
And I just remember thinking like, this can't be how it is. Like this just can't be. That kind of flipped a switch. And then I had a lot of support from my wife, and she organized a bunch of my teammates to support me and kind of get me back to moving. And it was really a crawl, walk, run kind of cycle. Literally, I mean, walk from the front door to the mailbox. Like that was an exercise session.
Wow.
And then eventually it was walk from the front door to the first, electrical pole, and then the second one, and then eventually run to 2 or 3 of them. And then, the next thing you know, you're kind of running 3 and 4 miles, and then, you kind of transition to the first 5K, 10K, and you just kind of keep building from there. But it was a long process. And then on top of that, I had to try and figure out how to now have my prosthetics built to I didn't have a hand. So now I had to figure out, well, if I want to do these things, well, how do I go about doing it?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to start with a processes and getting some prosthetics made so that I was able to do these things.
Yeah, you climbed Kilimanjaro. Have you climbed any other mountains?
I've climbed all the tallest peaks here in the continental United States. So I've climbed a lot of the 14ers in Colorado. I've done some a pretty extensive amount. I'd like to do some more of the 7 summits. Just it's an expensive hobby, and quite frankly, being away for a month or 2 at a time, to climb a mountain is just challenging.
Do you have a problem with your prosthetic? Does it swell? Does it have?
Not anymore, but I did in the very beginning. Every once in a while, I'll have some issues with it, but I use a place in New York City, Prosthetics in Motion. They're awesome. I mean, they custom build me. I mean, anything I need.
I mean, so. You kind of have your own body type,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wait, on Muscle Spasms, you were deadlifting almost 500 pounds. Is that?
Yeah, so I've pulled 625 recently.
625, holy shit.
Yeah, and they built that arm that's done it, that has allowed me to do it. I don't like to talk about myself, but I will for this. In the next couple of weeks here, I should be over 400 pounds, on my bench press. So I should be around 425, I think.
I mean, me too. So that's not really.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah, I started axing things. I rented a cabin, and I was like, I'm gonna buy an axe and just like axe stuff. And I get 10 swings in, and I'm like, oh, this is hard.
Yeah. Yes. Axing things is very challenging.
It's very challenging.
Yeah.
Especially when the neighbors come over and they just stand around. You're like, what are you doing this for? You're like, exercise.
Yeah.
Can you go away?
Yeah.
I'm dying.
That's how Rocky Balboa did it. So it's got to work.
I know that's what they were like. I think Rocky did this. They're Puerto Rican. They love the boyfriend's Puerto Rican, and they get all very Puerto Ricanish together.
Okay.
Everybody go home. So your wife, was there any waxing and waning in the support? Because I know my personal empathy is only for a short time. So
No, the sun sets and rises on my ass. So there was never any waning. She's pretty amazing with that. She's super supportive. I mean, traveling and racing, and then training for Ironman is full-time job. On a Sunday morning, get up at 6 o'clock, eat breakfast, and then say, okay, I'll see you at 5 o'clock. I'm going for a bike and a run. Always very supportive. So no, never, and then fast forward 3 years ago, or 4 years ago now, I had a stroke. And again, first face I see when I wake up and last face I see before I go into surgery. So
you get through everything. Are you working at the program at this time when you have your stroke?
Yeah, we were working with the New York Red Bulls. We were doing an event called Combat Mindset, which for any of us at the program, the physical portion of it, where there's some sparring, is just for us, it's just a workout. People are hitting a pad, they're throwing, elbows and knees at you, and you got some padding on, but really they're just striking a pad. You're just kind of pushing them back, but you're in the ring sparring with them. They're rotating on you every minute and a half. So you get a new fighter, but you're just in the ring for, 2 hours or, with some breaks in between, but never has it been anything of a physical struggle, even with a Division I football team. Like, yeah, you got to take some breaks, but so it wasn't like I was doing something that I was unfamiliar with. Just this particular day, they were kind of hanging on my neck a little bit, and my carotid artery got frayed, and that caused a blood clot, which stopped blood going to my brain.
Wow. So you have your stroke, and now you have to pick your whole life back up again.
Yeah.
Jesus. Did you take all your mental training from before, when you knew what to expect in the small growth, in your small victories, and apply it? Or did you fall into a depression, or did you?
Almost. When I woke up so I had 2 strokes, and then I had brain surgery. They pulled off a bunch of blood clots off my brain. And when I woke up, my right side of my body was not functioning. So I had very limited dexterity.
So your left hand is gone, your right side is not. Okay.
I could not operate my iPhone. Like, I didn't have the dexterity to even
And that wasn't because of your age?
No. And I got my font size is like 28. So it wasn't even because of my eyesight. Like, no, my body was not working. The doctor told me that I may have my face was drooped a little bit. I have some slurred speech. I may walk with a gait, and I'm going to have limited dexterity on my right side. And I can tell you that I don't like to admit this, but I started to cry. And I was just I was so angry again, because I was like, I've already done this. Like, I've already battled to this point, and I don't want to do this again. Like, I do not want to go through this again. And I probably gave myself, I don't know, maybe a half hour of kind of being a victim.
Just 30 minutes.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't that long, because after that I was like, anything they told me, I was like, good. All right. I'm going to have a limp. Good. I'm not going to walk straight. Good. Like, I'm going to prove you wrong. And that was kind of my mentality going forward. And the day that I was released, I was back I went to a local CrossFit gym where I knew I needed space. So it started out with just throwing a handball against the wall and trying to catch it, like just trying to line up my eyesight to my hand, just trying to get some. So, I mean, I was negotiating stepping on a 45-pound plate, like a box jump. Like, I had to look down and tell my right side, okay, step, and just to get on a 45-pound plate.
I mean, I've had some tequila nights where I've done that.
Yes. Well, you got to tell your body, okay, there's a curve here, step.
Right side, okay, left side.
Yeah. So it was a lot of that for 5 or 6 months. And then I just refused. I can say that since the stroke, I probably haven't gone 2 days without working out in the last 4 years. Like, I just refuse to be weak. Like, I won't do it.
What do you think the mentality is? Okay, so my last episode, I interviewed Gavin McInnes, who started the Proud Boys. And I just wanted to know how his mind worked, because he's very polarizing as a human being. He's got a lot of positions, that I don't agree with. And but I thought it was the fact that he kept making something hugely successful, it crashing on him, and then he has to start something new again, and he does it over and over again, and I'm like, what happens? What why is this different in your brain? What do you think that you're like, never be weak, refuse to accept it? Where did this come from?
One, the enemy. I just don't ever want the enemy from 2005 to think that they beat me. And I'm still pissed off the fact that I never got another shot at him. I got basically plucked off the battlefield, right? But wherever he is, if he or she is still alive, like you didn't beat me. For a little bit you did, but I'm stronger now than I've ever been. So it's my mindset.
Yeah, but look at your life. I mean, look at your life is so cool. Like, you get to work with all these pro athletes. You have a gym. You've got a wife. You have love.
Yeah, I am fortunate in that aspect, but I'm thankful and fortunate that
I'm just
I've
saying,
gotten.
you did win.
But I still, that doesn't mean, in his case, when you're winning, it's super easy to let off the gas pedal, to lose sight of the things that got you there. And maybe that's why things come crashing down on him. So, yeah, when you're winning, you got to find ways to get better again, challenge yourself and stretch your comfort zone. And the minute that you let off is when, things can go wrong. So you need some self-discipline, but I think most importantly, you need great people around you. So, I'm privileged to have my teammates at the program. I mean, I have guys and girls around me every day that just won't let off or won't let me let off. So I
Well,
think
you
that's
and
a big
Eric
part of
have
it.
a very funny how you guys like met and became partners.
Yeah, it was a mutual friend set us up. And then when I first met him, we were at Hofstra University, and we had spoken on the phone a bit, and he'd asked me to come to an event to observe. And, I was like, hey, what do you want me to wear? And he was like, hey, just wear khaki shorts and a black shirt. So I just had a black, like, Iron Man t-shirt on. And, I pulled up to Hofstra and I saw his truck with a trailer, and he was moving some log poles. So I went over to just help him. And he picks his head up and he looks at me. We've never actually physically met before. And he's like, dude, tuck in your fucking shirt. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I didn't even know this guy yet, like, other than a phone conversation. But like, in his mind, like, you show up to work and your shirt is tucked in your pants and you're ready to go.
Right. Yeah.
And as shocked as I was, it was almost refreshing because it was someone holding me to a standard. And yeah, I was doing some great stuff before that, but it was refreshing to hear someone that has some standards and that has expectations of how you're going to do this job. And we've been together now for 13 years or 14 years, and he's never let up. He's never let up. So,
but he doesn't just hold you to a standard. He also pushes himself.
Eric Kapitulik is the most disciplined, in my mind, most disciplined and most physically, mentally, and emotionally tough person I've ever met.
Have you had friends in your life that you just, you are like, I have to let this person go? Like, this person is not good for my life?
Yes, that's why I have 3 friends, and you're on that list of 3. Yeah, I just, if you're not in my circle, if we don't think alike, and again, when I say think alike, we don't have to have the same agree on politics or religion, but if we're not in that same mindset, I just don't, it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I've had like, just over this last year, I'm like, I'm setting boundaries. I'm like, you don't have like a go get it attitude, and I don't have time to do everything for you. I refuse to. So,
I mean, I'm fortunate. My best friends are the guys and girls I work with at the program.
Yeah.
Like Jake McDonald, Jamie Slife, Eric Kapitulik, Ghislaine Stoner. Like, that's who I talk to every day. Yeah, I mean, I got
every person there has the coolest story.
They do. And like, there's people at the gym, like here locally, that like I'm friends with, but like, I'll go fishing with you, but that's about it. Like, and even then I may throw you overboard. Like I gotta.
I just don't want to have dumb conversations. Is this all you have going on?
Yeah, like you said, like they're complaining about like their Porsche is broken down, or like, oh my God, like, did you see what so and so posted on Facebook? I'm like, no. Like, what makes you think that that's like? Who are you that you think that is directed towards you?
Is this something that you have to work with your athletes on?
Absolutely. Outside distractions, listening to as what we refer to as the noise, is a big issue for lots of coaches, because everyone's their own brand. So you go on social media and, they all have their stories and their, pictures of all their successes, and they, you inflate your own ego with social media. And then, you start to read the, especially in football and basketball, you start to read a few negative comments about you, and, people spiral.
Woody Allen said that he posts things, and I know that he's also, I'm talking about all these controversial people, but he said, I put something out and then I shut it, I close it down. I don't read any comments. It's just out there. It's the art that I made that I love. That's it. And I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do that with everything.
With social media, I think you still have some responsibility. If you put it out there, well, then you have a responsibility to like own up to it, like, or, take some of the content, take some of the feedback. To me, social media is, or even texting, everyone's a tough guy behind the computer screen or the phone, right? You can write whatever you want. There's no real repercussions for it.
I get my weekly screen report, and over the last 3 months, I keep reducing every week, and I'm down to about 1 hour and 8 minutes on my phone a day, and I feel so much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't talked to anyone in my family for months, but I'm like, you're messing up my screen time.
Yeah.
No, it's social media is extremely addictive. Joe Rogan just had someone on his podcast talking about how, I don't know if it was intentionally made this way or, but it's such a machine and it can destroy you. So you need to get off of it.
It literally drives you in a certain direction that you allow it to. I mean, if you like certain things, it picks up those algorithms and sends you into, if you want to be a pro Trump guy or it'll just force you down that way. Or if you want to go the other way, it is a powerful, I think it's a weapon.
It is awful. I post some things. I try to keep it inspiring. I try to keep it authentic. And then I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Right now my social media is pretty good because I just follow like really cool companies that make cool t-shirts and like meatheads like lifting heavy shit. And then like people crashing on bicycles. So that's all my feed is now. So I've eliminated.
Yeah, you are a meathead.
Yeah. Whoever is like looking at the mothership of social media is like, this guy is an idiot. Like,
I know you had that one where you're holding both the barbells going down in the snow. And I was like, that's so cool. Why did I say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm a meathead too. I'm like, look at this cool flip. And everyone's like,
so lately I've been addicted to like people doing dumb shit in the gym. It's like stupid exercises and like horrific like weights
like
crashing on
my head. Where they pull themselves back and they're like.
Recently I filled out like an ambassador program for a supplement company, and they were like, hey, what's your social media like, handle or whatever? And they emailed me back and like, well, your social media is really weak. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, so I'm good then.
That's a compliment.
Yeah.
That's a serious compliment. Everybody go check it out. It's just your name. SAMCILA, right?
That's it. One.
We follow each other, so you can find him, and I'll tag him on this. So can we talk about your first son and your second son? Did you maintain a relationship with your first son?
Yeah, we have, we're super close. Yeah, we've had some, obviously I was in the hospital for, a bit when I was injured in 05, 06, I was an inpatient for some time, and, his mom wasn't the easiest to deal with, but he's 21 now. We have a great relationship. He's super close with his brother, Anna, my wife, and him. They talk all the time. He'll be down here in a couple of weeks. So, in that aspect, it's been really good. For me, growing up with my brother, who's 4 years younger than me, my brother has always been my best friend. And I want the same for my two boys, is that, hey, just be each other's best friends. Me and my brother never actually had an argument. And he's, 40 something. And so maybe some bickering, but we've never had an argument like we hung up on each other and, not talked. My brother's always been my best friend. So I've been really fortunate. And that's really what I want for my two boys.
Mm-hmm. My sister was forced to be my best friend.
Okay. You got voluntold to be best friends?
Yeah. I didn't have any friends my own age. My mom was like, you go with Heather. And I was like, and my sister's like, again?
Yeah.
But she's a robot. She's an engineer. She has her PhD from MIT, and she got the robot brain, and I have like the emotional brain, and so we laugh at each other a lot.
Very similar. My brother's a mechanical engineer. He works for the Long Island Railroad. So he's a design guy, wicked smart, can figure shit out, but common sense, not so much.
Not so much.
Yeah.
I would never leave her in the woods behind her house. I'd be like, poor little girl, come back inside.
My brother actually hiked across. We did, I sucked him into doing the Grand Canyon. We did rim to rim to rim.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I was like, Lewis, you got to train for this. And he was like, yeah. So he like went on a couple of like hikes through Merrick. Yeah. And then you do a, 60-mile hike across the Grand Canyon, hit the rim, and then come back to the South Rim. To this day, he still curses me that his toenails and feet have never been the same. But there was one point where we were at Phantom Ranch. It's the campground in the middle of it. And he was like, dude, I can't go the rest of the way. Like, I can't get out of here. And it was like a scene in The Hangover. I was like, I have to call your wife and be like, I don't, like, he's in the middle of the Grand Canyon. So I was like, well, your options are you have to stay. And then when you're healthy enough to get up, they'll hike you out. Like, they don't fly a helicopter in to get you. Like, you have to get yourself out.
Bill Gates.
Yeah, you're not Bill Gates. So yeah, he just thought, walking around Merrick was enough to do the Grand Canyon.
So how did you get him to keep walking?
I had to drag him a little bit. I had to drag him a bit. Maybe then we did argue a little bit. We may have argued there.
You're like, come on.
Yeah.
My sister I did a bike ride across the country, and I did comedy shows all along the way. It was really cool. And my sister was like, yeah, I'll come with you. And so my brother-in-law, who they've been dating since 7th grade, they both did all their schooling together. Animal, beast, you'd love him. Just beast of an athlete. Him and I are out riding together, and then he would take off, and then we kind of split up. And then my sister would go out, and she would be sitting up on her bike, and she'd be pedaling, and we're like, we're going 12 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And then she just would forget to take her feet off the clips, and then just
fall over.
We're like, oh my God.
Yeah. My wife and I, the one time we almost got divorced was on a bike ride. We were out on Long Island. I was training, and she wanted to ride with me. And the same thing, we were climbing a hill, and she's like, you're going too fast. And I'm like, I'm doing like 8. Like, if you go any slower on a bike, you fall over. And she kept yelling at me, like, you're going too fast. I'm like, there is no, like, the next speed is stop. So it turned into, I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm just out. Like, I'll see you in 4 hours.
You left her.
I left her. That was it. Yeah. That didn't play well in my favor 4 hours later.
Yeah, and I know. I mean, I could make you feel really guilty that she stayed with you during all that stuff, and you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I won't mention it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know how this everything so everything in your family, everything's rock solid. Everybody's together. What's your son doing now? What are your sons doing now?
My older son goes to the University of New Haven. He's studying sports science.
Mm-hmm.
So he wants to. I think he's going to take his CSCA, get his strength and conditioning,
cool.
And work with athletes. My younger son is actually today he's training. He's going for his Eagle Scout. So they're doing a big Eagle Scout hike through New Mexico. So it's in a couple of months. So right now they're doing their first 8-mile hike.
Where in New Mexico?
It's some Boy Scout camp. I don't particularly know the name of it, but they actually have to train for it because there's some elevation. So today was the first one. It's his birthday today too. So he's 17. And I give him credit. He got up. It's his birthday. Like, the last thing you want to do is go out for an 8-mile hike on your birthday. But he's out doing it today. So yeah, both of the boys are good. Just trying to keep them in the right direction, and that's it.
New Mexico was the hardest part of my bike ride. It was very windy, and it was like dry, wind, hot. Yeah. Also, my driver lost me, and I thought I was going to die. But other than that, it was so windy. I also am an idiot, and I rode east to west, not with the wind.
Yeah, that was not a very well thought out plan. I know.
I got to Indiana to meet up with my sister and brother, and my brother-in-law goes, "It's weird that you picked east to west, huh?" And I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "'Cause of the wind." And I was like, "I forgot." How
did you end up in New Mexico? Like, don't you want to try? Like, I did Race Across America, so like you basically shoot straight across.
Okay, so again, an idiot. I didn't really plan very well. So I planned all these comedy shows. So I was raising money for domestic violence shelters, because 2/3 of all domestic violence shelters are on the verge of closing, especially now, skyrocketing numbers. So all my ticket sales were going to the local shelters, and not every place was a straight line across. And then if I did a straight line, I'd end up going through like Reno and all where there was nothing. I was planning on going through and over in Denver. And I was like, man, these Rockies are hard. So I was like, I'll just go down and around them. But turns out the Rockies go through Mexico. So you can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's no avoiding that.
No, yeah. So I was like, I guess I'll just turn right. And then I did some shows in Albuquerque. We set shows up so quickly. It was great. But that was very hard. Yeah, my driver, I was meeting her. I changed it from, first she hit me. She hit me with my own car in Pennsylvania. And then I was like, how about instead of following me, you will go point to point. And I'll meet you every 20 miles, grab a new water, say hello, and then we'll keep going. But then when we got to New Mexico, it was so hard. I was like, let's do 10. And then the next turn was 8 miles. So I was like, let's just meet at the next turn. Confirmed, shared pins, the whole thing. I'm standing at the turn. My signal is gone. There's an overpass. It's a dirt road. There's nothing around. She's nowhere to be found. I'm like, she has a car. She should have been here an hour ago. What the fuck? So then I rode in a circle trying to find a signal for 2 hours. And then I was like, I'm going to lose daylight. Now I'm in survival mode. I'm like, I have this much water. I can, and I saw a sign that said 42 miles to the next town. I was like, no matter what, I can walk 42 miles. Let's do this. So I just kind of I went slowly and I went parallel with the freeway. And then eventually I saw a rest stop and I chucked my bike underneath the barbed wire fence and I started to roll myself underneath to go across to the rest stop. And as I was doing it, I got snagged on the barbed wire. And then I look over and there she's coming up the hill towards me. And I was like, you motherfucker.
That's definitely an adventure.
It was an adventure. I got in the car. I was like, okay, first and foremost, you are fired. Secondly, I was like, you hit me and then you lost me.
Yeah.
I was like, secondly, I'm so glad you're here. So
It's amazing that she hit you.
She hit me and she ran over me, but I have a lifted Tacoma because I am a hick. And I was just underneath it, tucked underneath. And my hip, oh my God. And then I bought BioFreeze. Have you ever used BioFreeze?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So I was rubbing it on my hip in Iowa. And Iowa has these beautiful bike paths. Lots of people on them. Lots of nice Iowan families, cute little conservative families. And I put it on my hip and then I went to adjust my shorts away from my parts. And I got BioFreeze on my parts. And I started crying and I was like, I'm on fire. So I stand up and I was like, just sweat it off. And then finally just sat down in a flood, a little puddle. And this family was like, I don't know what's happening. I was like, just look away.
Yeah, that's a rough go.
Yeah, don't put BioFreeze on any of your parts. Yeah. The lesson of this podcast.
Duly noted.
Okay, so do we have any, I've read a lot of your blogs, the No Excuses.
The program's books, not mine. I've Eric Kapitulik and Jake McDonald, they wrote the program book. My story's in it, but yeah, I haven't written a book. I'm not that.
Oh, not your book, your blog. There was some blogs with your your No Excuses. And yes, I did buy the program for Dave, the boyfriend. And I think that you guys probably know one another. His father was a corrections officer in Suffolk County.
Really? Was it last name? Well, we don't tell me. Yeah, you don't tell me on the podcast.
Oh, I just said it. I'll have him take it out. I'll email you. Yeah, I was like, I think that you guys probably know one another. He's crazy. His dad's crazy. He's so fun. What's your big message? Because it says that you never train people with a straight line, like how most people do. What is the?
Well, I mean, if I was going to say a message, I just think that every day we have a choice to be a victim or a warrior. And it's not always the easy choice to choose warrior, but it is always the easy choice to choose victim. And we can, with some discipline, with some great teammates around you, you can choose warrior. And what does that mean? It means just keep moving forward. Don't make excuses and find a way to get it done. Don't let off the gas pedal. Don't shift blame or redirect ownership. Like, take ownership of stuff. And, things that happen with COVID are not our fault or are to blame, but what we can control is how we react to it and what we do in those circumstances. And you can use it as an opportunity to get better, or you can use it as a platform to just bitch and moan about how shitty and hard things are. And that's a, victim mindset. So, I mean, it's just wake up every day and make the challenging choice of be a warrior.
Yeah. Be a warrior. Hell yeah.
Be a warrior.
Be a warrior and carry barbells down your driveway with 4 feet of snow on either side.
4 feet of snow, yeah.
Okay, so we said it one time, but where can people find you in your social media?
Sam Cila1 on Instagram. I don't have Facebook. I'm not that cool.
Why do I always say your last name wrong?
That's okay. It's all right. That's really it. I mean, I wish I had a better social media follow, but you can follow the program.org at Instagram. That's really what we want people to follow. Our athletic site and our corporate stuff is, I think if people want to get better by inches every single day and, choose warrior over victim, the program is a great place to start.
Oh, yeah. I love this. All right. Well, thank you so much. Please make sure to follow Happy Never After podcast on Instagram and follow Sam and also the Be Frank Network. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Bye, Sam.
Bye-bye.